I'm gonna turn this Power Rangers toy from the dollar store into something cool for tabletop gaming, or at the very least, I'm gonna try. Hey guys, welcome back to Black Magic Craft. This week, doing what is many of yours favorite type of video, a dollar store challenge. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but they sure are popular and they are fun to do. Last night, I went to the dollar store in the hopes of finding something inspiring and cool. And I went to one of the smaller ones, the closest one to my house. And to be honest, there wasn't a lot that really piqued my interest, but I saw this. It's a little red Power Ranger figure, and the pose was pretty interesting, and I could absolutely visualize this as some sort of really cool statue monument for any kind of game, D&D, Frostgrave, whatever. Yeah, turning things into statues is kind of a cop-out, but I have some ideas to really kind of push this to make it look neat. And the thing is, statues and monuments are really, really useful bits of scatter terrain for almost every game, and I don't have enough of them, so that's what we're gonna do. Wish me luck. First thing I need to do is assess what I have to work with. Okay, so we got the figure, which looks pretty good, and I'm just gonna cut him away from the base right now. This actually could be kind of useful. You know, it might look good on a wall or a tile or something like that, but it might be a super recognizable Power Ranger symbol. And if that's the case, I don't want to use it, which I'm assuming it is. I don't know much about Power Rangers. I haven't watched Power Rangers since about, I don't know, 1998 maybe. I think we're gonna scrap all of this and focus on this dude. There's a couple features on here that I think I immediately want to remove. This gun in the holster, for example, because that's just way too modern, and I think this is gonna end up being a sort of fantasy type figure. So we're gonna cut away this gun and holster. Pretty soft plastic, so it's not too hard to do. And since my intent is to turn this into a sculpture, this doesn't have to be as nice as if it was gonna be a playable character figure, which it's too big for anyway. I think I want this guy to have a cape. So I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. There's a couple different methods I could use. All of them have varying amounts of annoyingness and waiting time. Let's see what I got. Got green stuff and MILLIPUT. I often prefer to work with MILLIPUT because it's a little bit softer and can be easily smoothed with water. For something like a cape, I want it to have some rigidity and be able to roll out a flat, thin piece. So green stuff is probably going to be better. Fortunately, I will have to wait for it to cure, which kind of sucks. But I think everything I do, I'm gonna have to wait for it to cure. I could also sculpt this out of like toilet paper and glue or paper towel and glue. That will take even longer to dry than this stuff. Green stuff is all mixed up. I also went and gave this guy a quick wash in warm soapy water to make sure there was no mold release or grease on him from the factory. Now I gotta turn this green stuff into a cape. And I've never done anything quite like this before. I've used green stuff to sculpt some things, nothing like this. I can already tell that that's gonna stick too much to this tile. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this sculptor's vaseline on the tile, a little bit on the rolling pin. Now I might be doing this completely wrong. This is certainly not my area of expertise, but I learned through doing. The Vaseline just makes this spin. Oh boy. How do mini sculptors do this crap? That's too slippery. A pasta roller would be awesome for this. Every time I've done projects like this where I've messed around with green stuff to actually sculpt something, usually ends up taking me a few tries. Now that I have that, which is probably covered in fingerprints that will transfer, The only part that I really don't like is right on the hood. I've kind of squished it a fair amount. It looks strange. Let's see if I can fix this. I feel like this guy would look way cooler if he had a skeletal face and was more like a badass lich. I don't particularly want to sculpt a face, so I'm just going to look through these random minis to see if I have a kind of skeleton face that would be about the right size. It's going to be tricky because this guy is bigger than 28 millimeters, so I don't know if I'll actually have anything. Nothing in there. No, don't got anything that is quite right. This is the part of the video where I remember that I have a big box of Citadel skulls. There's got to be something in here. Gotta be something in here. These are all too small. Don't want like an orc skull. Probably too big. Those are all gonna be the wrong scale. Honestly, this one right here might work. It's a little bit too big, but it might work. It might be kind of comically large, but that's better than small because then it could look like a mask. Also, this one is concave, and since this figure already has a head and I haven't cut it off yet, this will be easier to apply than, say, a solid skull. Obviously, this would have been better to do before doing the green stuff. I don't know. It's a little goofy. Maybe if I can get it to sit further back on his face, it'll be okay. I need to hollow it out a bit. Green stuff, Citadel skulls, rotary tools. We have long since left the area of the dollar store. Sue me. Better now. Boy, do I ever wish I did this before the green stuff cape. Should he have some horns? I feel like he should have some horns. I think I'm going to create another layer of green stuff for his cowl, just to make it all blend in a little bit better. Anybody who has sculpted a lot of miniatures and out of green stuff that's watching this is probably really totally laughing at me right now for doing everything so stupidly. Not great, but we're getting there. It's not quite having the effect that I had hoped for. The main robe is getting more and more screwed up. I don't know. I think that's not working. We gotta start again. Pretty okay with how it looks on his face. I thought this would be so much easier to do. Sculpting a cape should not be this hard. I'm doing a lot of things wrong apparently. It would have helped if I attached this to something more secure and solid instead of this slippery tile. I feel like this is going poorly. I don't know, this is not what I was hoping for. I'm fighting against the exaggerated, oversized skull on this thing. It really just makes the whole thing look a bit goofy, and that's really not helping, and I'm trying to fix it with this cape that I'm not very good at sculpting, and overall, this is not going well. I don't know. Make that look more like hair. What if maybe instead of a lich with a flowing cape, this thing looks more like a tribal chieftain warrior, and maybe he's wearing like something akin to a buffalo skull, because I can sculpt this to look like a mane of animal hair, and maybe this will be more appropriate and easier to do. That would also justify the oversized skull. So now this is going much better. I think I'm gonna give him like a loincloth or something instead. But the skull here, I think it's too big and goofy looking, and I'm thinking of switching it out for that one, just a straight up animal skull, and it might look better. That's that. My thought is that this will look more like a mask on the face rather than that other one that just looked like he had a really big head. I've also glued this to a real solid handle so that I can work on sculpting this without touching the green stuff. Now let's work on some kind of loincloth. And I'm gonna try using this. It's one of the Green Stuff World sculpting tools. It's a texture print meant for fur. Looks all right. Good sign. Now let's do a little shoulder shawl thing. I think I've managed to salvage this project. It was not going very well for me, and I certainly did not end up where I planned to be. But sometimes if things are going bad, you gotta just take a step back, let the material lead you, pivot, and try something different. Sure, this isn't the, robed wizard that I initially planned, but he's a cool looking tribal sorcerer, and that's all right. I gotta keep moving on this project though. I gotta be time efficient here, and this green stuff is gonna take a couple hours to cure before I can mess with it. So I'm gonna move on to the base. And originally, my plan was to put this on some sort of styrofoam pillar or something like that. But I glued it to this medicine container to keep it stable. And I realized that right here, it's already on a pretty great base. It's strong, it's glued, so there's no sense messing with that. But just leaving it like that would be kind of boring. And I was again thinking about building it up on a pillar or something. Then I realized that on this lid, there's this spinning plastic thing, this mechanism that makes it connect. And I had what I think is a brilliant idea. I found a big plastic miniature base that is larger than this. And I realized that if I were to attach this to the base and only glue this ring, leaving this separate, I would be able to spin this figure on the base. The DMs in the room are already thinking what I'm thinking. This can turn into a really cool interactive puzzle piece. I will put some sort of indicator on the front of this and then maybe carve a series of runes on this thing, and it will work almost like a combination lock. And it's gonna be pretty cool. Again, probably would have worked better if this was a robed sort of wizard, but hey, if I just go with some really archaic tribal runes, it'll work out pretty cool. So how am I gonna do that? This is a thin plastic. I could use some more green stuff and roll it out and put on there and carve the runes in, maybe some milliput. I could just try to scratch them into this. I don't think that'll work well. I think I'm gonna roll out some milliput and carve them in that way. Now, should be able to just imprint this and create a little groove for this to sit in. Just a matter of getting it centered. So that's good. just need something to be the waypoint on this, and I don't see any reason to not turn back towards my Citadel skulls. The amount of mileage I've gotten out of this little box of skulls is absolutely absurd. One of the best purchases I have ever made. I can start thinking about weapons. This is pretty awesome. When doing a kind of kit bash, mix mash, half sculpted kind of mess of a project like this, it's always incredibly satisfying to hit it with the black primer. It ties it all together and it makes you realize that a lot of the stuff you were doing that you thought might look like crap actually looks pretty damn decent. I've officially decided that I am going to paint this like a patinaed bronze statue. And to do that, I'm going to use some Model Air colors through my airbrush. And I'm doing this because, well, one, airbrushing is a little bit easier and you can put it on thinner, but also because a lot of these little tiny thin flaps of green stuff, they're pretty delicate and I don't want to be hitting it too hard with a brush. That being said, you can absolutely get away with painting statues like this without an airbrush and just use cheap craft paint and a paintbrush. And if you don't believe me, I will put a link up there to a video where I did a whole bunch of miniatures doing just that with much simpler, cheaper materials. Another reason an airbrush is going to be super handy for this one is that this thing, it spins. So it'd be pretty annoying to do it with the paintbrush. At least with the airbrush, it won't be pushing it around. Before I paint it out with the metallic color, I'm going to undercoat it with this orangey brown to give the metallic some help and so that I don't need to use as much of the metallic. This guy is looking pretty damn nifty. I'm really happy with the way it looks. The figure looks great. I'm so in love with this idea of it spinning on the runes. The only thing I don't really like seeing it painted is that I didn't do anything to this lid to make it look different, because I thought, you know, having it smooth and these little line pattern here would look good, but it does really kind of look just like a lid, which I don't like, but I don't think it's worth going in and changing at this point. If I were to do this again, I would probably add some kind of banding around this to make it look less like a pill bottle lid. Now there's two approaches I could take with this in terms of the washes. If I wanted this to stay looking very regal and shiny and new, I would go in with a flesh shade wash. This sort of reddish wash over a gold or a bronze makes things look really rich and awesome. But I want this thing to look really old and tarnished and a bit creepier, because I mean, look at the figure, just it should be creepier. So I am going to use a black wash and a verdigris kind of patina on it to make it look like old bronze. I painted this using craft paint and a homemade black wash and my homemade patina wash, and you can absolutely get great results doing that. But this time around on this one, I'm gonna see if using a real off-the-shelf black wash is better, and also if this GW or Citadel patina gives me a better effect. Again, you don't have to, you can use homemade stuff, but as you can see, I'm basically out of it, and I bought this bottle to try, so we're gonna see how it compares. Overall, paint job turned out pretty decent. I did end up also using a brown wash after the black one just because I thought the gold color was still too bright and I wanted to take it a little bit closer towards bronze. I will say that this Citadel stuff is really good and it definitely is a lot stronger and in a sense works a lot better than the homemade stuff that I use. However, it's definitely designed to be used sparingly in details with care on a miniature, and I like to just drench a thing in it and be done with it and kind of patina the whole thing. And in that sense, this was too thick and it probably would have been better to have thinned it a bit or just use my homemade wash. But I think I'll probably save this for just actual details on minis versus big statues like this in the future. I finished it off by giving everything a dry brush with this bright gold just to come back and bring some of the highlights back onto it, places big raised smooth spots where the patina may be worn off. I think it really helps the look. This pill cap again was a bit of a problem. It was really hard to get this looking good. So, you know, I tried different things, splotching it with toilet paper, paper towel, brush, and kind of got it okay. But in retrospect, the one thing I would change about this build if I were to do it again is I would have decorated this to look more like a carved, maybe stone platform, something with more texture that was a little bit easier to paint and, well, a little less pill bottle looking. But man, I'm still just really happy with the cleverness of this. Let's get some fancy photos. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Personally, I think it's pretty damn nifty. What started as a Power Ranger toy ended up as a very usable bit of fantasy terrain that is gonna work perfectly for D&D. The paint job could definitely be improved, but the coolness of the spinning base makes up for that in my opinion. Tackling projects like this does require some special tools, and if you're thinking of giving the hobby a go and want some more info on what tools to buy, check out my essential equipment page on blackmagiccraft.ca. There I have a list of most of the stuff I use with explanations as to why. I also have links to where you can buy the exact items on Amazon. Those are affiliate links, and purchasing through them earns the channel a commission that helps fund the production of videos like this. These videos are a huge undertaking to produce each week, and the only reason I'm able to do it is because of the support from viewers on Patreon. Throwing the channel a couple of bucks a month is monumental, and it lets me focus on doing what I do without embedding a bunch of off-topic sponsor ads in my videos. By signing up, you get access to some cool rewards like the private Fellowship Facebook group and the new Discord server. I really hope you found this video inspirational and informative, and if nothing else, entertaining. Hit the like button if you did, drop me a comment below, and if you're new around here, don't forget to hit subscribe. I put videos like this up each and every Friday. Cheers everyone, have yourself a great weekend.